If you think that Agile is going to take away the need for governance and control in your organisation, then you need to get that idea out of your head right now. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Chatting Transformation, the Change and Transformation podcast that's designed to help make your change and transformation journey that little bit easier. I'm Barry. I've been in change and transformation now for around about 20 years, having worked from the most junior roles right up to leading some really significant transformation and change activity. And I want to make sure that I'm passing on my experience, knowledge, opinions, lessons I've learned, so that if it makes just one person's change and transformation journey that little bit easier, then I've succeeded. Today I want to talk a little bit more about Agile. We introduced Agile in the previous episode and talked about why Agile is really a mindset, or creating a new mindset where teams are interested in understanding how, and not just how, why work is delivered in a certain way, and then being open to implementing continuous improvement around how and why work is done. That's the Agile mindset. Now, one of the key documents within Agile is called the Agile Manifesto for software development, or also known as the Agile Manifesto. If you remember back, I mentioned that Agile has its roots in software development, so a lot of the documentation, processes, methodology, terminology will use language from software development industry. But Agile can be applied to almost any activity in almost any organisation. You just have to be open to reading through the terminology and understanding the principles behind it and how those can be applied to your certain situation. The Agile Manifesto then is a document which is therefore designed to help embed the Agile mindset. It's broken down into 4 values and 12 principles, and today I'm going to talk through the values and give a little bit of my interpretation around them so that it helps you guys understand them a little bit more and think about how they help you with that Agile mindset. So as I said, there's a set of statements, and 4 of them are the values designed to help you embrace the Agile mindset. They are, I'll pop them on the screen so you can see them: individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. And whilst there's value in the things on the right hand side of the page, processes and tools, comprehensive documentation, contract negotiation, following a plan, what the manifesto is saying is the things on the left should be valued more, and that will help you to embed that Agile mindset. Now, the values are not designed to be practical. They are starting points for changing the way you think about the work and adopting that Agile mindset. So if we take the first one, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So historically, particularly in software, but actually generally with most change and transformation activity, teams would concentrate on having the best possible tools or processes with which to build their software, their output, their outcomes, whatever it is they're building. And you can see how that translates into the wider transformation activity, where we focus on having the best PPM tools, the best processes, the best handbooks for the program and project, and you must use this tool to report these things in this exact way. And yes, these things do have a level of importance, but what is vital is having the right group of individuals on your team. The best possible processes and tools in the wrong hands are worthless. They don't work. So it's about having the people there who are really good at doing this stuff, rather than just saying, here's all the tools and just bringing anyone in to utilise them. And it's also important that those individuals are in a situation where they're able to communicate regularly. So these interactions between the team members, that helps them to collaborate, which means they're able to solve problems that arise, and it leads back to that understanding the principle of how and why the work is done in a certain way, and being open to continuous improvement. So it's already creating that mindset. The second one is working software over comprehensive documentation. So just like with some change transformation activities, software developers would spend an age creating detailed documentation before actually starting to produce anything. Where have we heard that before? And that's very similar to behaviours we often see in the case of program and project initiation and definition activity, where months are spent designing the program, writing the business case, going to the nth degree on planning and identifying strategic risks and exactly what the outcome is going to be and all of that kind of stuff. It all still needs to be done, but when we're using a waterfall approach, what we're actually doing is leaving the delivery of the output, in this case the working software or our version of the working software, right until the very end of the project. And that means there's always significant risk around. It could be subject to faults, it may not be exactly what the requirement is intended, the client's needs might have moved on, and so whilst it's exact to what they requested, it might not be what they actually need. We'll talk about that a little bit later with some other values. But that's fundamentally what we're doing with the waterfall approach. So the principle of getting working software or some kind of usable output to the client early de-risks much of that. So it might just be a little bit of it. It doesn't have to be the whole 100% finished article. It could be, we've changed this, we've tried this, we've tested this, have a go with it, see what you think. And actually that de-risks that. Is it going to have faults? Is it not going to be what the client intended? Has the client's needs moved on? Because you're doing it much earlier, so you're de-risking a lot of that. That's actually a key part of many of the agile methodologies, which we'll talk about in later episodes, is that getting stuff built, tested, and exposed and review it early. That also leads into the next value, which is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Now, in many change and transformation initiatives, whether they're in-house within an organisation or you're bringing in external agencies to help delivery, the detailed deliverable is defined and captured right at the start in a contract, and that's what everybody is obsessed with. What you end up with, though, often is a contrast between what the contract said, what the deliverable actually does, and what the customer actually needs. And so you end up in a situation where you're negotiating around, has the contract been fulfilled? Yes, no. Does it do what it intended to do? And it just gets into a very negative situation. With customer collaboration, by engaging with the customer early and collaborating throughout, we build a feedback loop so that we ensure that at all times we're getting a constant understanding of the customer's needs, and the customer can see that we are striving to meet their requirements and really pushing for them, because we're asking for them to come and look at things constantly and check them and review them and give us feedback and all of that good stuff. So having that constant customer collaboration avoids that situation where there's a bit of a car crash contractually at the end of the engagement. And linked to that again is the final value, which is responding to change over following a plan. So I say this to everybody in change and transformation: how often does a plan survive first contact with reality? In many change and transformation activities, we spend a lot of upfront time developing a plan, and then during the delivery fighting to get that plan back on track, and we're dealing with risks, assumptions, issues, dependencies, resource, there's all sorts being thrown in. And that's if the client is still thinking that they want the same thing that they set out with. So with adopting this agile mindset, we should be much more open to responding to changes from the various sources. So it could be we develop something, we put it out early, we test it, we get the customer to use it, we review it, we evaluate it, we get feedback, and that might mean we need to change the plan because we're changing something else. Or the client might turn up and say, actually, I originally wanted this, but now the world's moved on, or we've pivoted and we're doing this, and this is what I need. So the client's needs might change. Within the team, we might actually develop some potentially better ways of meeting the client's needs than what we originally set out to do and what we agreed with the client. So rather than just sticking to that rigidly to that plan, which comes back into that delivering that contracted deliverable, which might not be right, we need to be much more open to responding to change, and ultimately ensuring by doing that we give the client what they want and actually what they need. So you can see how the four values start to come together to provide that mindset of understanding both why and how work is done in a certain way, and then being open to continuously improving how it's done. And the outcome is everyone's a lot happier, the team's a lot happier, the individual's a lot happier, the customer is a lot happier because they're getting what they want. As an organisation, you're probably building stronger relationships because you're not in a fixed period where there's going to be a row at the end over contracts and people are going to turn around and say we're never using you again. You're going to be building that long-term strategic relationship where you're seen as somebody that is on the customer side and wanting to deliver what the customer needs. So just to review that, key things to take away, and I will bang on about this again. Agile is a mindset. It is not just a project delivery methodology. It is an absolute mindset. The Agile Values are about helping us to embed that mindset, and I would strongly advise anybody that is thinking about doing any kind of Agile transformation to plaster the place in the Agile Values and the principles, which we'll talk about in further episodes, because that is going to help people understand the why of the Agile, not just the how of the Agile. The other thing I just want to come back to though is with those 4 values is they use the term over, not instead of. And when I see people, or when I've been to support organisations that are talking about bringing Agile in, I hear things like, oh, I want to do Agile because it means we don't have to do governance, or I want to do Agile because I'm fed up of all these large documents. All of Agile does not replace governance, documents, all of that kind of stuff. In fact, actually, you need to be way more mature with your understanding of governance, documents, records, decision making, accountability, because instead of having a very structured waterfall model where it's very clear where decisions are made, and that's kind of why waterfall is slow, because everything is planned out to the nth degree. With Agile, you're doing it as you go. Now, with some of the methodologies, you have those points, they're regular and they're smaller, those decision points, those accountability points, those review points, those governance points. But actually with Agile, you're doing a lot of this constantly. You're constantly doing governance, you're constantly doing the right thing. You might not do as much of it because you're not saving it all up to a once a month meeting or something like that, but it's still happening, and so your understanding as an organisation of it has to be way more mature. You can kind of get away with waterfall because your program manager and your PMO and everyone is going to hold your hand through the process. But with Agile, you need to be way more mature in understanding these things. So they don't replace them. They are seen as more important than, but these other things still have to be done. So please don't think that Agile is going to be the answer to all your anti-governance prayers. It's not going to be. So yeah, that is the Agile Values of the Agile Manifesto. I hope that has made sense. I hope it supports one person at least with their decisions around adopting an Agile mindset and going through an Agile transformation. I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and I'll speak to you shortly.